We begin here. Senior Counsel for the Electoral Commission, Advocate Trengove, has argued that it would not be possible to hold constitutionally compliant local government elections later this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He based his arguments on the impossibility under the current conditions. Now, the IEC has approached the Apex Court on an urgent basis to have the October 27th election deferred to no later than February 2022. The Commission is of the view that if the elections are held in 6 months' time, most of the population would have been vaccinated. Now, to date, 9.5 million South Africans have had at least one vaccination. Now, let's get the latest. We're joined via Zoom by our reporter, Natasha Phiri. Natasha, it's been a long day for you. Now, take us through today's ConCourt proceedings.
Well, very good afternoon to Nati and, of course, to our viewers. Indeed, it has been a long day. And currently testifying right now is a senior counsel, Mr. Max du Plessis, who's actually representing the Democratic Alliance. You know, Nati, that the Democratic Alliance has actually opposed the IEC's ConCourt's application to ask for a deferment of those local government elections from the 27th of October 2021 to the 28th of February 2022 next year. But let's just perhaps take you through the main arguments of the day, starting with the IEC. We saw there, like you've correctly said, that Senior Counsel Trengove, who actually represents the Electoral Commission, arguing that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it would be impossible to hold a constitutional compliant local government election later on this year. And notwithstanding this, Unati, he actually did face very tough questions from Justice Theron, and she had asked Senior Counsel Trengove why the IEC did not approach Parliament to pass the legislation to actually suspend the elections. Remember, you've got two options in IT. It could be the ConCourt option, it could be the Lent League option of going to Parliament, of seeking an amendment to Section 1592 of the Constitution, which stipulates that once the term of municipal council actually expires, then Uniti, a new council would then need to be elected, or rather, I beg your pardon, elections would then need to be held when that term has expired. Of course, you know that the term has expired on the 3rd of August 2021, and currently we're in that 90 days period. And of course, some have argued that elections need to take place on the 1st of November 2021. But then we also saw various other, arguments made on behalf of the ANC, made on behalf of other political parties like the EFF, like the IFP, who have also asked to be intervening applicants in this matter. We heard Senior Counsel Anthony Steyn, who is representing the ANC, arguing that there would be adverse effects for the ANC if the local government elections were to be postponed. And he also cited the fact that this would cause a disruption to the party's nomination process. As you know, that the ANC is not even done with their BGMs, United. So this would pose, a huge problem. We also heard there from Mr. Steyn saying that if, according to the ANC, they would actually like the elections to be postponed until April 2022. We also heard the Warren Shapiro of the IFP also citing that for their party, the IFP would actually like for the elections to be postponed to May 2022. And he also argued that it'd be safe to run the elections next year, citing that more South Africans, and he had hoped that about 40 million people would have been vaccinated by then. Another party which has been vocal about this, which at first had called for the amalgamation of the elections, is the EFF, and they were represented by Advocate Mfesane Gasiboto. And she's arguing that if this court application is not successful and is dismissed by the highest court in the land, then they'll actually asking the Apex Court to make an order asking the President and the National Coronavirus Command Council to amend or promulgates the lockdown regulations to allow that, more than 100 people can actually gather in order for their councillors to be elected. The EFF is also saying that it doesn't have the resources like other political parties to ensure that it runs its elections, the campaigns virtually. We also heard I think it was Mr. Ishmael Jamie representing the Western Cape government. The MEC of Kota was also 10th respondent in this matter, opposing the court case, arguing that the Constitutional Court has no powers to actually amend the Constitution. So these are just some of the arguments, United, that were brought forth before the Constitutional Court. I tell you, it has been a very long day. And, one could actually feel for the judges there who are actually hearing the case, because there's so much to actually digest throughout, this entire day, United.
And in fact, you are right, because we know that some legal analysts have weighed in on this, saying that this is a burden to the ConCourt, as it could have gone to Parliament. But then the argument of this taking longer than 4 months just to amend that section of the Constitution. Talk to me about what happens now. What is going to happen for the rest of today, and when are we likely to see an outcome to this?
Well, Unati, like I said earlier on, we are still listening to that argument that is being made by Mr. Du Plessis on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. It's still unclear because of the time right now. I mean, one would expect that these proceedings would probably end at around 4 o'clock, but it's still unclear because you have NGOs and lobby groups like Freedom Under Law, like AfriForum, like CASEC, who also want their pleas to be heard before the Constitutional Court. So, I mean, as much as we're living under unprecedented times of COVID-19, we don't know what's happening. I could also imagine, we actually don't know what time these court proceedings will actually end, because it is a matter, of interest. I think this is probably the hot story or the leading story of the day, which is quite important, because at the end of the day, South Africans need to know if they will be heading to the polls on the 27th of October or not. And just, taking you through some sentiments of various political parties that I spoke to earlier on, they're raising concerns that, yes, if the Constitutional Court actually does not rule in favor of the IEC and decides that the elections will go ahead, then what happens to the voters' roll? As of now, the voters' roll actually sits at 25.7 million registered voters, United. Some of those registered voters haven't even amended or changed their addresses, like myself. What happens in that case? Will we see a case where only that number of South Africans actually go and vote? So, I mean, some political parties have been saying that this is actually, a lose-lose situation, so to speak.
Absolutely right. They are raising some very important and pertinent questions. Natasha Phiri, thank you so much for your time. We'll leave you to it. There's a long day ahead. We'll definitely be checking in with you, if not on the show, throughout the rest of the channel. Thank you so much for your time. All right, Natasha Phiri there. Obviously following up this story, as she rightfully said, a big story of the day.